Hello and welcome to our tutorial. So this will be a short one. We're just going to look at doing some quick viewer work in Unity. So I'm going to start here in Blender and we're going to create an image that we can see just as an illustration of how we would bring in, say, for example, a cutscene into Unity, a VR cutscene. So we're going to start by deleting everything. So I'm going to press A and X and delete everything. Press N and bring up my keys here so you can see what's going on. Okay, so I have literally nothing here in my scene. So I'm going to go Shift A and I'm going to add a UV sphere. I am going to add a subdivision surface modifier and I'm going to tell the object to shade smooth. So I have a nice smooth sphere. I'm going to go into edit mode on this and we're going to look at the normals. So you can see all of the normals are on the outside of this sphere. So when we bring this into Unity, if we put our camera inside it, if we were to put our VR video onto the inside of this sphere, we won't be able to see it because all these normals are pointing outwards. So if we were to put a picture on the outside of the ball or the sphere, like a football, we'd be able to see it from the outside, but once we put the camera inside, it becomes invisible or transparent. It's called backface culling. So there's different ways to deal with that. You can write a shader that flips the normals, or we can just do it this way. So I'm going to go to the mesh, normals, and flip. And now if I go to wireframe mode, you'll see that those normals are now pointing inward. So now I want to export this so I can use it in Unity. So I'm going to go File, Export FBX. I'm going to tell Blender I only want the object that's selected, and I'm going to call this sphere, and I'm going to put it on my desktop and click Export. And we are now done in Blender. So I'm in this is the Unity hub here, and I'm going to create a new project. And my hard drive is going to go wild. So this is Unity 2019.2. So as of today, that's the most up-to-date version. So we're going to call this VR intro, and I'm going to put this again on my desktop. Okay. And we'll hit create and make sure it's a 3D project. So this is very similar to what we had a look at in class. So this is just sort of kind of reflecting on that, so you have some sort of reference material to what we looked at. So on my other monitor, Unity is starting to load. It'll take a minute or two. Meanwhile, we'll just have a quick look at I am going to be importing into Unity this object here. So Google VR for Unity. So let's see if I can show you this here. Where is it? No, well, let's just go find it. So if I type in Google Cardboard SDK and then Unity into my search bar, I will get, or I should get, if I have my internet connection is working, which it is, a Google search that will show me, oh, no, is that not working? Anyway, if you search for those keywords, I think it's the second or third option you'll get in your search results are for a web page holding that SDK, and you agree to their terms and conditions and then download it. So again, the current version is version 1.200.1, and that is compatible with the version of Unity that we're currently using, the 2019 version. So there is Unity opening in the background, so we'll just get our display set up the way we want it. And I'm going to bring in this pack, so I'm just dragging and dropping the Google viewer for Unity Pack, so I dragged it and dropped it into the project window, and I should get a pop-up now saying, do I want to import everything? And there it is there. So do I want to import? And it's going to import everything. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to import our sphere that we just made in Blender, and then we're going to look at bringing in content to put on the inside of that sphere, and then how we will set up our viewer components to make them work in a very simple, so we can just preview them here. We're not going to export them in this tutorial to Android, but just so in the editor here we can look around the inside of the sphere as if we were wearing a pair of Google Cardboard sort of VR goggles. So now that we have it installed here, we're going to right click and go import new asset, and we're going to go to our desktop, and there's our sphere. It's an FBX file. I'm going to import that, and we're going to bring this in here into our world. Now you can see it looks strange because we're actually looking inside it. So I'm going to take our camera here, and I'm just going to zero the camera out so it's at the, so we're inside the sphere. I'm going to take my sphere here and I'm going to double its scale just to give myself a bit more room to move the camera around. So now it's about getting the camera to look around in sort of a viewer, as a viewer camera would, or behave like that. So to do that we need to do a few things. We need to bring in a few of the prefabs. So this is going to go onto the camera. We have, this is going to drop in here, and we need these two. So we need both of them in to control or to set up the viewer components. And then on my main camera, so it's going to create an empty and set that at 0, 0, 0. I'm going to put the camera inside that. So this is going to be my what we call this, cam control. And then on the camera itself we're going to put this object. So this will give us a reticule, like sort of a dot that we can look at. But in order for that to work on the camera, we have to add in a raycaster. Let's see if I can find it here. It's a physics raycaster. That one. So we need to add that onto the camera. So I'm going to press, oh, am I missing the emulator? Hang on. There, that's the one I need to put in here. So I'm going to press play. And I've gone full screen here, so I can rotate around. You can see that I've got my white dot. I can tilt left and right, rotate that way, and I can look around as if I were a viewer camera. Now what we're looking at is not terribly exciting because it's just a big white sphere. So let's see if we can get some content. So I'm just going to open Blender again, and there we go. And what will we do here? We'll take, will we use that? We'll try that. So this is a large blend file. So I'm going to look through my camera here at this image. So we'll just have a quick scan of it using kind of look dev. Now this has a fluid simulation in it. And actually, no, I'll tell you what, we won't use that file because there's all sorts of issues with it. You know what we'll do? We'll just create a new blank file and you'll get the idea. So I'm going to again place my camera at the origin. So I'm going to go Alt-Or, Alt-G, and it's going to rotate it -90. So my camera is at the origin. I'm going to look at my camera and I'm going to make it a 35mm camera, so a slightly wider angle. And I'm going to move this on Y to here. So there's my cube. Okay, it's in front of my camera. So I'm going to go into rendered mode and take this here and maybe make it slightly blue, so we have a blue light. So I'm going to take my cube, I'm going to go Shift D, and I'm going to duplicate a number of cubes, and I'm going to change the height that they're at, because we'll be able to look around in VR and their positioning. I'm also going to make a new material just so we can kind of differentiate between some of them. So the default material, we'll just call it W for white. We'll make a new one and we'll call this OR for red, and we'll make it red. So we'll pick out a couple of these and make them red. And these are just for reference, so we can see what we're looking at, so it's not all the same. So I'm going to look through my camera here, and I'm also going to have a look at my background. So if I go to shading, these are this is the shading options for the objects, but I want the shading options for the world, and I'm going to make the world black or dark. So now these are my options. So I look through my camera and I can see this one cube. Now if I select my camera, first actually I need to change my render engine. So I'm going to go from Eevee to cycles, and I'm going to tell it to use the GPU, so my graphics card, to render my image. There we go. And it's an AMD graphics card, so it'll take a moment or two to set everything up for me. I think I can just stay with supported here. So all we're doing is something quite simple. I'm going to go to my camera settings and change it from being perspective to being panoramic, and then from being a fisheye to being an equi-rectangular. So again, we did this in class. So I'm going to look around here. So I can't find my objects, so maybe I need more light. So I'm going to take my light here and make it a sun. And it's got quite a bit of light coming out of it, so I'll give it a strength of say 4. Now I'm going to look through my camera and press F12 to render. And hopefully I will see more than I can see over here, which is nothing. So my render window has opened up on my other screen, and I'm just going to let it render before I move it or it'll crash. So this is it rendering here, so I might need to make it a bit brighter, but you can see that it's rendering an image that will surround, like that isn't just what the camera can see in front of it, but is it's rendering all the objects around it as if it was like a spherical render. So it'll be done shortly. So this is just as a reference, so we can bring this in to Unity. So when we are looking around inside the sphere, we'll have something that is, I suppose, appropriate to look at. Okay, so I'm going to save that image. I'm going to go Save As. I'm going to put that on my desktop, and we'll call it VR1. And it's going to be a PNG file. We'll leave it as an RGB. We don't need any alpha channel. And we'll hit Save. And we can exit Blender or leave that alone. So we'll close this up here, and again, we're not haven't set up any folders or anything. We're just going to very simply bring this image in. There it is. There, it's a default texture. I'm going to drag and drop it onto my sphere, and there it is there. Now, this sphere, so I've got a directional light here. So this sphere, its material probably could do with having its shininess reduced so that it doesn't react to the light here, although we still obviously want to see everything. So I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. I'm going to press play, but I'm going to turn off maximize so we can see what's going on. So I'm playing. I'm holding down the Alt key, and I can look around, and if I hold down the Control key, I can shift left and right, or rotate on that axis, to try and emulate what a VR headset might look like. So this is me basically looking around that scene that I've just rendered in Blender. So you can imagine if I were in here, hang on. So if this is my scene, and this seems to have paused on me. What are you doing, Blender? So I was just going to say, so I could make an animation in this. So if you want to have a cutscene animation play in Unity, the way to create one for your game is to create it here with these settings here, with the equi-rectangular setting on the camera and in the Cycles render engine, and then output either a PNG sequence and then turn it into an MP4, or output an MP4 directly if you can. And then you would bring that in here, and on the sphere, instead of having a standard material, you go add video player, and then play back the MP4 on the sphere, and then that will give you your cutscene, like your VR cutscene, that the player can look at before they then enter your level. Okay, so I'm not going to do any more than that for now, so that's enough. It's only a short little 15-minute video, but you can see sort of the workflow of creating stuff in Blender, exporting an equi-rectangular render, making the sphere and inverting the normals, bringing them in here, importing the Google VR SDK, and then these are the objects that you need in the game. And then if you want the reticule to work, and we'll look at how to get that to be interactive in another day, you add this onto the camera, and on the camera you need the physics raycaster setup, or otherwise you won't be able to see the pointer. Okay, we'll leave it at that for now.